I knew the exact moment my career at Corivia was dead. It wasn't when the HR rep with the dead eyes handed me a cardboard box, and it wasn't when security escorted me out like I was a rogue agent with a backpack full of plutonium. No, the rot set in 6 months earlier, the second Marcus Webb walked through the frosted glass doors. He arrived on a Tuesday morning, which should have been my first warning. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday. The man looked like he'd been assembled in a lab specifically designed to produce insufferable executives. Tailored suit that cost more than my first car, hair slicked back with enough product to waterproof a submarine, and that smile. That goddamn smile that never quite reached his eyes. "This is Marcus Webb, our new Chief Operating Officer," the board chairman announced to the gathered staff. "He's here to help us scale." Scale. That word. In Silicon Valley, it's code for extract maximum value while discarding anyone who built the thing in the first place. I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez. I don't have a podcast. I don't do keynote speeches at tech conferences. I don't have a carefully curated Instagram presence featuring me looking thoughtfully into the distance while holding a MacBook. I'm the person who spent 7 years in a basement lab, surviving on cold coffee and vending machine dinners, building the neural interface technology that put Corivia on the map. The Nexus system, that's what they called it now, a breakthrough in brain-computer interfaces that could restore motor function to paralyzed patients. It wasn't just code and circuits, it was hope, packaged in silicon and algorithms, and critically, it was mine. What nobody in that conference room knew, what Marcus certainly hadn't bothered to discover, was that I held the foundational patent, not Corivia, me. The company had an exclusive licensing agreement, sure. They could manufacture, market, and sell the technology, but they didn't own the core intellectual property. The engine belonged to me. I'd been careful 7 years ago. Call it paranoia, call it foresight. I'd seen too many brilliant minds get chewed up and spit out by the corporate machine, their life's work stamped with someone else's logo. So before I signed my employment contract, I negotiated a provision that would make most corporate lawyers weep into their bourbon. The patent stayed with me. Corivia got a perpetual license, but with conditions. Very specific conditions that lived in Section 12 of a document Marcus had clearly never read. He shook my hand that first day, his grip just a touch too firm, his eyes already scanning the room for more important people to impress. "Dr. Vasquez," he said, "I've heard great things about your technical contributions." Technical contributions. Like I was the person who fixed the printer. "Looking forward to working together, Marcus," I said, keeping my voice neutral. He was already walking away before I finished the sentence. "Hey, quick pause here. If you're the kind of person who loves watching corporate sharks get their fins clipped by the nerds they underestimated, hit that subscribe button. It keeps the coffee flowing and the stories coming. Trust me, you'll want to see how this one ends." The first month was reconnaissance. Marcus circled the company like a vulture, taking meetings, making lists, studying the org chart like it was a battlefield map. He'd pop into R&D unannounced, ask questions that revealed he didn't understand the difference between a neural network and a fishing net, then leave with that same predatory smile. "Just learning the business," he'd say, "getting to know the engine room." What he didn't know was that I was watching him too. Every email he sent got flagged by a filter I'd set up years ago. Not reading them, mind you, that would be illegal, but logging the metadata, the recipients, the frequency. Patterns tell stories if you know how to read them. His patterns told a very specific story, a story about a man who was having entirely too many conversations with Meridian Capital, one of the biggest private equity firms in the Valley. A story about a potential acquisition. I mentioned this to Sarah Chen, my lawyer, a woman who'd been with me since my postdoc days, who'd helped me structure my original patent protection, and who had a reputation for making corporate legal teams cry. "He's positioning for a sale," Sarah said, her voice crackling through my phone. Classic playbook. New COO comes in, streamlines operations, makes the company look pretty for buyers, then flips it for a massive payday. And anyone who doesn't fit the streamlined narrative gets streamlined right out the door. I sat in my lab that night, surrounded by the humming servers that housed my life's work, and I thought about what to do. I could fight. I could go to the board, raise hell, make noise, but that would just make me look difficult, emotional, hysterical, all the words they used to discredit women who dared to defend themselves in corporate settings. Or I could wait, watch, prepare. I chose option 2. The second month, Marcus started making changes, small ones at first. The weekly R&D briefings got moved to a time slot that conflicted with my clinical trial reviews. My name started disappearing from slide decks, replaced with vague references to the founding team or early technical contributors. Then came the efficiency consultants. A team of 20-somethings in matching vests descended on the office like locusts in business casual. They carried clipboards and laptops, asked intrusive questions about workflow optimization, and nodded along to everything Marcus said like he was delivering the Sermon on the Mount. One of them, a kid named Derek with the intellectual depth of a puddle, cornered me in the break room. "Dr. Vasquez, we're auditing the IP portfolio. Can you walk us through the patent holdings?" I stirred my coffee, taking my time. "Sure, Derek. Which ones specifically?" "All of them. Marcus wants a comprehensive overview for the investor deck." Investor deck. There it was. "I'll send you a summary," I said. "But I should mention, not all patents are company-owned. Some are licensed." Derek blinked. "Licensed? From whom?" "From me." He wrote something in his clipboard, but I could tell the significance hadn't registered. It would, eventually. That night, I went through my files. The Master License Agreement. Section 12, Paragraph B. The clause I'd insisted on 7 years ago, when I was just a naive scientist who didn't yet know how prescient she'd need to be. In the event of A, termination of the licensor's employment without cause, B, material misrepresentation of patent ownership to third parties, or C, fundamental change of control of the licensee, the licensor reserves the right to revoke all usage rights with 30 days written notice. I highlighted that section, saved a copy to 3 different encrypted drives, then I went home and slept like a baby. The third month was when things got ugly. I arrived at the office one morning to find my access badge didn't work. Not at the front door, not at the elevator, not at my own lab. I stood there like an idiot, waving my card at the reader while the morning rush of employees streamed past me, eyes carefully averted. Finally, a security guard I didn't recognize appeared. "Dr. Vasquez, there's been a system update. You need to get a new badge from HR." HR. The department that used to report to me. I walked up 4 flights of stairs, my heels clicking on the concrete, my jaw tight. The HR director, a woman named Patricia who'd been with the company almost as long as I had, wouldn't meet my eyes. "There's been a reorganization," she said, sliding a new badge across the desk. "Your access level has been adjusted." "Adjusted how?" "You now have access to the general office areas. For anything else, you'll need to request temporary authorization." I looked at the badge. Where it used to say Founder and Chief Science Officer, it now read Senior Technical Consultant. "This is wrong," I said, keeping my voice level. "I'm the CSO. My employment contract specifies your title has been restructured. Marcus signed off on it last week. If you have concerns, you can schedule a meeting with his office." His office. Which used to be my office, the corner suite with the view of the bay that I'd occupied for 5 years before Marcus decided he needed the better real estate. I didn't argue. I took the badge, went to my desk, which was no longer a desk but a workstation in the open floor plan area reserved for junior analysts, and I opened my laptop. Then I did something I'd been putting off for 3 months. I called Sarah. "It's time," I said. "Start documenting everything. I want a trail." "You think he's making his move?" "I know he is, and when he does, I want to be ready." What Marcus didn't know was that every system he was trying to access, every piece of code he was trying to claim, every patent he was misrepresenting to potential buyers, was connected to a licensing agreement that still had my signature on it. He thought he was playing chess. He didn't realize the board was rigged. Month 4 brought the efficiency reports. Marcus presented them at an all-hands meeting, standing at the front of the conference room with the smugness of a man who'd never been told no. The slides were slick, professional, filled with meaningless metrics and aggressive bar charts. "We've identified significant redundancies in our operational structure," he announced. "Moving forward, we'll be implementing a leaner, more agile framework." Translation: people were getting fired. The first round hit the support staff, administrative assistants, facilities workers, the people who kept the lights on and the coffee brewing. They were marched out that afternoon, boxes in hand, while the remaining employees watched in horrified silence. The second round hit R&D. Not me, not yet, but my team, the engineers and scientists who'd helped me build Nexus from the ground up. One by one, they were called into HR, handed severance packages, and escorted out. Dr. James Okonkwo, my lead engineer, texted me from the parking lot. They said the position was eliminated, 7 years of work, and they gave me 2 weeks' pay. I sat at my degraded workstation, surrounded by the absence of the people who'd trusted me, and I felt something shift inside my chest. Not anger, exactly. Something colder, more focused. Marcus passed by my desk on his way to another meeting. He paused, looked down at me with that same predatory smile. "Elena, how are you holding up?" "Fine, Marcus. Just doing my work." "Good, good. That's what I like to hear." He leaned in, dropping his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Between you and me, some changes are coming. Big changes. I think you'll be excited." "I'm sure I will." He patted my shoulder, a gesture so condescending I had to clench my fists under the desk to keep from reacting. What he didn't know was that I'd been monitoring the due diligence requests from Meridian Capital. I'd seen the emails flying between their analysts and our legal team. I knew exactly what big changes were coming, and I knew that not a single one of those emails mentioned my licensing agreement. Month 5 was when Marcus made his fatal mistake. The Meridian Capital team arrived on a Thursday, a phalanx of suits and Patagonia vests, carrying the self-assurance of people who trade in billions like it's pocket change. They set up camp in the main conference room, demanded access to every database, every document, every piece of proprietary information. I was not invited to those meetings. But Derek, the efficiency consultant, was, and Derek had a habit of printing things and leaving them in the copier. I found the pitch deck on a Friday afternoon. 67 pages of lies dressed up in PowerPoint. Slide 23 was the one that caught my attention. Complete IP ownership of Nexus System neural interface technology, no encumbrances, no third-party claims, fully transferable upon acquisition. Complete ownership. I photographed the slide with my phone, sent it to Sarah. Then I walked back to my desk and continued working like nothing had happened. That night, Sarah called me. "This is it," she said. "This is the breach. Section 12, Paragraph B, Clause 2, material misrepresentation of patent ownership to third parties." I know. If we move now, not yet. Let them close the deal. Let them announce it to the world. Let Marcus stand up in front of everyone and claim what isn't his. There was a pause on the line. "You want maximum damage. I want him to build his entire future on a foundation that belongs to me, and then I want to pull it out from under him." That's cold, Elena. He fired my entire team. He demoted me to a cubicle. He's about to sell my life's work and tell the world he built it himself. Cold is the least of what I am. Sarah laughed, a sharp, delighted sound. "God, I love it when you get like this." "Okay, we wait. But the moment that deal is announced, we move." "Agreed." I hung up and looked out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably celebrating, popping champagne, counting his future millions. He had no idea the clock was already ticking. Month 6 was when everything came to a head. The acquisition was announced on a Monday. Marcus called an all-hands meeting in the main atrium, standing on a raised platform like Caesar addressing the masses. Behind him, a giant screen displayed the Meridian Capital logo next to Carivia's. "This is a momentous day," he proclaimed. "After months of hard work, we've finalized an agreement that will take Carivia to the next level. Meridian Capital has acquired the company for $1.8 billion. The crowd applauded. Some cheered. The sycophants in the front row looked like they might weep with joy. "This success belongs to all of you," Marcus continued, "but especially to our leadership team, who had the vision to recognize our potential and position us for this incredible outcome." Not a word about the founder. Not a word about the woman who'd invented the technology that made the deal possible. I was standing in the back of the crowd, invisible. Marcus went on for another 20 minutes, talking about synergies and growth trajectories and market penetration. Then came the slide I'd been waiting for. As part of this acquisition, Meridian Capital will be assuming full ownership of all Carivia intellectual property, including our flagship Nexus system technology. Full ownership. I pulled out my phone and opened the encrypted messaging app I used with Sarah. He said it. Full ownership. In front of the whole company. I'm sending the notice. Her reply came in seconds. Doing it now. The letter will hit their legal team in 1 hour. I put my phone away and looked at Marcus, still pontificating on stage, still basking in the glow of his stolen victory. Enjoy it, I thought. It's the last time you'll feel this way. I slipped out of the meeting before it ended. I didn't go back to my desk. I walked out of the building, past the security guards, past the reception desk, out into the California sunshine. I didn't take anything with me. I didn't need to. Everything that mattered I already had. The first call came at 3:47 p.m. It was Patricia from HR sounding strained. Dr. Vasquez, we've received a document from your legal counsel. We need you to come in and discuss it. I don't work there anymore, Patricia. I walked out this morning. You, what? I resigned. Effective immediately. Check your email. Silence. Then, but the document says I'm revoking Carivia's license to use my patented technology, effective 30 days from today. If you have questions, Sarah Chen is my attorney of record. I hung up. The second call came at 4:15 p.m. It was Marcus. Elena. His voice had lost its smoothness. What the hell do you think you're doing? Hello, Marcus. Congratulations on the acquisition. I heard it's a big deal. This is insane. You can't revoke a license. We own that technology. No, you don't. You never did. Check your files. The Master License Agreement, Section 12. I have the right to revoke in cases of material misrepresentation of patent ownership to third parties, which you did. On stage, in front of 200 people and a Meridian Capital delegation. There was a pause. I could practically hear him sweating through the phone. This is a shakedown. You want money. I don't want anything from you, Marcus. I just want what's mine. I'll sue you. We'll bury you in litigation. You'll never work in this industry again. You can try, but I should mention the license agreement also includes an arbitration clause that specifies any disputes are settled according to original contract terms. Terms that were drafted by Sarah Chen, who, in case you're wondering, has never lost a case. More silence. Elena, be reasonable. Let's meet. We can work this out. There's nothing to work out. You have 30 days to wind down operations. After that, any use of my patented technology constitutes infringement, and I will pursue that aggressively. I hung up. Then I ordered Thai food, poured myself a glass of wine, and watched the sun set over the bay. The next 3 weeks were a symphony of chaos conducted entirely by other people. I stayed home mostly, took long walks, read books I'd been meaning to read for years, cooked meals that didn't come from a microwave. Meanwhile, Carivia was burning. The news leaked within days. Someone at Meridian Capital must have talked, because the tech press picked up the story fast. Neural interface startup's $1.8 billion deal in jeopardy over patent dispute. The stock price, which would have been set based on the acquisition value, became meaningless. Meridian put the deal on hold. Then they put it on extended hold. Then their lawyers started making noise about pulling out entirely. Marcus tried everything. He hired lobbyists. He launched a PR campaign painting me as a disgruntled former employee. He gave interviews to sympathetic journalists who painted the story as a cautionary tale about founder overreach. None of it worked, because the facts were on my side, the contract was on my side, the law was on my side, and Sarah Chen was on my side. She was relentless. Every threat Marcus made, she countered. Every lie his PR team told, she corrected. She filed an injunction preventing Carivia from continuing to use Nexus technology during the dispute period. She submitted evidence of the pitch deck to the arbitration panel. She deposed Derek, the efficiency consultant, who admitted he'd never seen the licensing agreement and didn't know what it contained. 2 weeks into the process, Meridian Capital formally withdrew from the acquisition. The announcement came on a Friday afternoon, a terse press release citing unresolved intellectual property concerns. Translation: they'd realized Marcus had tried to sell them a car without an engine. I got a call from the Meridian CEO that evening, a man named Victor Huang, who'd made his fortune betting on the right companies at the right time. Dr. Vasquez, he said, I want to apologize. We should have done more thorough due diligence. Apology accepted, Mr. Huang. I also want to make you an offer. I'm listening. The technology is still revolutionary. The market opportunity is still enormous. If you were to form a new company, one that actually owns the IP, Meridian would be interested in investing. I smiled into the phone. I'll have Sarah send you a term sheet. The final act came a month later. Marcus was out. Not just out of his job, but out of the industry. The board, desperate to salvage something from the wreckage, had terminated him for cause: breach of fiduciary duty, gross mismanagement, all the euphemisms for "you lied to us and cost us $1 billion." I watched the news from my new office, a corner suite in a building 3 blocks from the old Corivia headquarters. The sign on the door read, Nexus Therapeutics, Inc. My team was back. Dr. Okonkwo was my new CTO. The engineers and scientists who'd been fired were all hired at higher salaries. Even Derek, the efficiency consultant, had applied for a job. I didn't hire him. Meridian Capital's investment had closed 2 weeks ago. $200 million in Series A funding. Full valuation, $800 million. And I owned 60% of the company. The phone on my desk rang. My assistant's voice came through the speaker. Dr. Vasquez? There's a Marcus Webb here to see you. He says it's urgent. I looked out the window at the bay, at the boats cutting through the water, at the city I'd helped build. Then I looked at the photo on my desk. My team, gathered outside the old Corivia building, smiling and hopeful and unaware of what was coming. Tell him I'm busy, I said. Tell him I'll be busy forever. I hung up and went back to work. There's a lesson here if you're paying attention. They'll tell you the system is designed to protect people like Marcus Webb, the smooth talkers, the deal makers, the men who know the right handshakes and wear the right suits. And maybe they're right. Maybe the system is designed that way. But here's what they don't tell you. Systems can be hacked. Every contract has clauses. Every power structure has pressure points. Every empire built on stolen foundations can be brought down by the person who poured the concrete. I didn't beat Marcus Webb by screaming. I didn't beat him by fighting. I beat him by being patient, by being thorough, by reading every document, signing every dotted line, and building a trap so elegant he didn't even see it until it snapped shut. They call it revenge. I call it engineering. Because the same mind that can build a neural interface to restore function to paralyzed patients can also build a legal framework to destroy an arrogant executive who thought he could take what wasn't his. It's all just problem solving. Input, output, cause and effect. Marcus thought he was the variable. He was just the experiment. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. A real company. One that actually owns its technology and treats its employees like human beings. Thanks for listening to this saga. If you enjoyed watching a corporate shark get legally dismantled by the scientist he underestimated, hit that subscribe button. And remember, always read the fine print. You never know when it might save your life, or end someone else's career. Cheers. What happened to Marcus, you ask? I heard he's doing consulting now, some startup accelerator in Austin, teaching young entrepreneurs about scaling with integrity. The irony is not lost on me. As for Corivia, it still exists. Technically, a skeleton crew runs the administrative functions, winding down contracts and settling lawsuits. The building is mostly empty now. The posters with inspirational quotes are gathering dust. The expensive espresso machine in the executive lounge sits unused. I drove past it last week, just to see. The Nexus Therapeutics sign was visible from the street, bigger than the Corivia sign, brighter. I didn't stop, didn't wave, didn't gloat. I just drove to work, parked in my reserved spot, and walked into my building. My building, my company, my future. And the best part? This is just the beginning. We're in clinical trials now, 30 patients with spinal cord injuries showing remarkable progress. The FDA is fast-tracking our approval process. 3 major hospitals have already signed partnership agreements. The technology that Marcus tried to steal, it's going to change the world. Not for his benefit, not for Meridian Capital's original terms, but for the patients who need it, for the families who've been waiting for hope. That's the thing about real innovation. It's not about the money. It's not about the titles. It's not about standing on stages and claiming credit. It's about the work, the late nights, the failed experiments, the breakthrough that comes after 1,000 setbacks. Marcus never understood that. He saw a product to be sold. I see a mission to be completed. And now I get to complete it. On my terms, with my team, in my company. Some might call that justice. I call it consequences. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law. It applies to physics, it applies to business. And it definitely applies to arrogant executives who think they can erase the woman who invented the future. I didn't set out to destroy Marcus Webb. I set out to protect my work. He just happened to get in the way. And now he's a cautionary tale, a footnote in the story of Nexus Therapeutics, a reminder of what happens when you underestimate the quiet ones. We don't shout, we don't threaten, we don't play games, we build things, we protect things, and when necessary, we take things back. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. Something about global expansion and a potential partnership with the European Space Agency. Turns out, neural interfaces have applications beyond medicine. Who knew? Well, I did. 7 years ago in a basement lab, surviving on cold coffee and vending machine dinners. But that's a story for another time. Subscribe if you want to hear it. Until then, remember, read your contracts, document everything, and never, ever underestimate the person who actually built the thing. They might just be the one holding the kill switch. Good night, everyone. And to Marcus, wherever you are, I hope the consulting gig is going well. Really, I do. Okay, maybe I don't, but I'm too busy running $1 billion company to care. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, the best revenge isn't destruction. It's success. It's waking up every morning knowing that you won. Knowing that the person who tried to destroy you is now a cautionary tale while you're building an empire. It's having the power to crush them and choosing not to, because you have better things to do, because they're simply not worth your time. That's real power. Not the kind Marcus had, borrowed from titles and board seats, but the kind that comes from knowing you earned every single thing you have. I earned this, every patent, every partnership, every dollar, and nobody can ever take that away from me. Not now, not ever.